Hello, everyone. Welcome to We Know Reality TV here on RHAP for Season 11, Episode 2 of The Amazing Race Canada. And I gotta say, it was a stunning upset here in Amazing Race Canadaville. I'm feeling pretty smurfy about the whole thing, to be honest. And my name is Jessica Liese, and I am here to process all of our mixed feelings about everything that happened this week in Alberta and British Columbia. And with me, as always, is podcaster Smurf, Dan Heaton.
I don't know if I deserve that. I'm not wearing a red hat. That's the big thing, Jess. I need to be wearing the red hat.
I think there really is a podcaster Smurf now. I know there is an influencer Smurf.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. They didn't paint them in blue. They didn't make them like memorize some lines and do something really dorky. Like next week, we'll get that, I think. Instead, they're just, they tried. We got to see the ad. Rihanna's Smurfette, I hear. But I don't know, Jess. I was a little disappointed by the execution here.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was charming. It wasn't humiliating. I know we love it when they humiliate the racers, but honestly, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been a lot weirder. It could have been a lot more boring.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And it actually was sort of, I wouldn't say challenging, but, the bar is low. You have things like, let's pull the car forward and, oh, something appears, or some really terrible product placement. And even the movie ones, all I really remember is the one where they did the voiceover for The Lion King. The one which was, that was the premiere of it way back, like many seasons ago. But this one was fine. The Smurfs, are you going to go see the Smurfs movie because of this, Jess?
No, but I have an 8-year-old, so I was probably going to be stuck seeing it anyway.
Not just because of the Amazing Race Canada and Papa Smurf being found over and over.
No. We will get to it, but I thought it was absolutely wild that there were people out there that did not know what Papa Smurf looked like. And maybe I'm just showing my age here, but there were people out on the internet who were just flabbergasted that anybody would know what color Papa Smurf's hat is.
Well, that's what's funny, because like we were at home and my wife, and she was like, how's everybody going to know that his hat's red? And I was like, yeah, well, maybe. And there were a couple teams, that just kind of took the little guy and were like, is this Papa Smurf? And the person's, I felt bad for the judge. Was like, no, that's not Papa Smurf. I'm sorry that this is what I get to do on national TV. But yeah, then there were other people that just seemed to be experts. See, the Smurfs have had like 5 revivals though. Because like I'm remembering the Smurfs from like when I was a kid. I think it was, I don't know if it was reruns or not, but it was the 80s. They had a show. But
yeah, that was the OG Smurfs, I think.
Yeah, and they've had so many other ones. The Neil Patrick Harris, you got the new ones. I don't even know. But for me, I wouldn't call myself an expert. But yes, I would know. Also, if you don't know the hat, look for the old guy with the beard. It's not that hard.
Yeah, like once you've seen a couple of different Smurfs, I think that I guess it's like if you've never seen Papa Smurf, you would only know it was Papa Smurf when you saw Papa Smurf. You'd be like, oh, okay.
Now I get it. I love how the like big team got eliminated surprisingly, and we're going to start off by talking about Papa Smurf, and people are like, what about what happened? I'm like, yeah, but this is fun. The Smurfs, that's the headline. The Smurfs and the Short Kings, those are the headlines.
Those are the headlines. And, what a week to be an ascendant week for the Short Kings. What other week could you have it in than Smurf Week? Because weren't the Smurfs... Were the Smurfs really the original Short Kings?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's why Gargamel was so mad, because he was not known as a Short King. He was just that other guy, that ugly, weird guy.
He was enormous. Like, maybe it just like gave him body anxiety to be around all the little tiny Smurfs. I'm not sure, but the people... I want to say the people did not come to hear us break down like the deeper meanings and allegories behind the Smurfs, but honestly, I think at this point, we've been doing this. This is our 9th season of recapping Amazing Race together. I feel like people know what they're getting into.
Well, yeah, last week when we were talking about it, I mentioned the Smurfs. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a Smurfs. I didn't know it was going to be this week, but I guess they got to do it early on when the ratings are higher. The highest ratings in the early episodes. You got to have the Smurfs then, Jess.
You got to have the Smurfs then, and you got to have the most teams having to talk about the Smurfs. The greater number of teams you have out there, like if you have 20 people talking about the Smurfs, there's a greater chance that somebody's going to say something usable by the marketing team.
Well, should we get into the task, or do you want to go back to the top? Because I have a few thoughts on what they did that I thought was good, the Amazing Race Canada producers, but I feel like maybe we should start at the beginning.
I think that's usually where people do start when it comes to these things, Dan. But I want to start with the new sign-up board and the new sponsor, because one of the beautiful things about Amazing Race Canada is that we get a different sponsor every year. Like, we kind of rotate them in and out. We've had several different banks, several different travel companies, and now we're on to a new beverage for season 11. Fuse Iced Tea sponsoring the sign-up board, and honestly, that's marginally more fun to chug than Guru. And they didn't even make people chug it on camera.
Well, I mean, I think it's better than Boost, too, which Boost is not really something you want to have a huge quantity of, I would think. So this, I mean, you saw Louis just grab like 5 of them. I mean, the cameras, of course, showed that because, I mean, come on, they want to show all the people really excited about the Fuse iced tea, which I've heard, Jess, is Canada's favorite iced tea. I don't know if you've heard this.
I have not heard this, but I have strong opinions on iced tea, Dan. Iced tea is an important thing. It's an important factor in my daily life. And I can't buy the stuff in the bottles because it's always sweetened. Even when it says just iced tea, then you take a big swig of it and it's still like solid sugar water. Maybe that's a US thing. Maybe in Canada, they are less wedded to having their tea be so sweet it crunches when you put it in your mouth. But I am a purely unsweet tea person myself. So if Fuse had that, yeah, I'd be doing Louis' thing. I'd be like sticking to every single slot in my backpack. I'd have to borrow an extra tote bag from Jesse and Jonathan to take all my tea.
Yeah, same here. I had one recently. It was called Just Ice Tea, I think. Like you just mentioned. Never had it before. Still it's like that gross, even when it's stevia, it's like that gross. I don't know. The bottle just like makes the sugar taste disgusting. Doesn't do it to soda. I'm okay. I don't drink a lot of soda, but still, I'm just saying, yeah, it's not great. So I will say, if we were going to rank it, though, I still think the Cliff Bars are the best sign-up board because you want to eat the Cliff Bars. Now, is the Fuse, I mean, Boost is at the bottom to me, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolute rock bottom. Like, that's in Biostrath territory, honestly.
Basically, yes. I mean, because it's like what people have when, like, it's like for people that are older. It's like insurer, kind of, basically. It's like, here, have this.
Like, I can't handle food, so I'm going to have this instead. I choose food every time.
Is Guru or Fuse better? Which one is, like, the better choice that the racers would be excited? I'm thinking Fuse, maybe.
It's Fuse, but Guru, I mean, we tried it. It's better than we thought. It's much better than it had any right to be. And so I will give Guru more props than I think we necessarily would have originally. But Fuse, it definitely goes Cliff Bar, Fuse, Guru. And then at the very bottom is Boost.
Yeah, I don't think we're forgetting any because Cliff Bar did it for several years straight.
Yeah.
And, I remember being like, it did kind of make me want to go get a Cliff Bar. So it kind of worked. And this was totally pointless, just because they all took cabs that I think were provided or some sort of private car service provided by the show. So the teams that were in the top 5 and bottom 5 stayed right there. The only purpose, this wasn't even like race to the board. The only purpose was for Fuse to get their thing. That was the only reason.
But I don't hate it. I have a few notes about the run up to getting on the buses. I appreciated that on the sign up board, when Rebecca and Rebecca got to the sign up board, they signed themselves up as the Rebeccas, which is fantastic. This is how we refer to them here internally as well.
Yes.
We got to talk a little bit. That was not the only branding decision that was made. We are now, instead of calling them Skylane and Blair, we are now calling them Nippy and Magoo, which is much catchier, if we're being honest.
Oh yeah. And even John did it. And I was like, oh, but it's weird because it was like, they lost their bags as Skylane and Blair. And then, now they're like, excited. People are giving them socks. They're getting tote bags from Jesse and Jonathan, who, wisely said this is not just for the Express Pass. But teams are giving them stuff. They're happy and they're changing their name. And now it's like, okay, so if they do well, are we going to see some like T-shirts being sold pretty soon here, Jess?
I think there may already be T-shirts sold. And honestly, these are the kinds of people like Magoo especially probably already had a T-shirt store.
Yeah.
Like that's his thing. Like he's a super fan. He has a big personality. He has an identity outside of the race. I'm going to say he probably already had one, but I feel like they were shedding the names that they came onto the race with and like kind of becoming like phoenixes rising from the ashes of their lost bags. They are becoming who they're going to be. And they shot up to the top. Like they had a great week. Leaving in third place, and then they dropped down a little bit later on, but they were never in danger. Like I don't know how long they're going to be in the race, but I think they're going to be in a lot longer than we thought they were. They
might. And yeah, they finished like 8th, but it was all because of Papa Smurf. I mean, that was really, they didn't have problem with the other things. And that was kind of the Rebeccas were right in front of them and they seemed like strong racers too. It was really it was down to the last 2 teams, but yeah, all the teams kind of were close together. And I thought, yeah, it's weird because, we'll see next week. Apparently there's some hockey issues, which normally I would say, Jess, don't worry about the previews. They won't give anything away. Oh no. No, because last week's preview showed Sam saying, we're going to get eliminated. Okay. What are they doing to me? They're listening to us. I don't know.
They're faking us out. Like, we kept saying they're not going to show anything meaningful. So they're like, we'll show you. We're going to show you something meaningful. And it's fine because I think the way they edited it near the end, and we are jumping around a lot. Everybody drink every time Dan and I say we are jumping around a lot because we do jump around a lot. But I think the editing at the end, regardless of whether or not they were actually if there was actually any chance that they were going to if they were going to pull it out and survive another day, regardless of whether or not that was actually true, I think the editing did a very good job of making us feel like it was. And I still didn't know up until that last 30 seconds. I did not know for sure what was going to happen. And I think that's mostly down to the editing. But it was also a great designed leg because you had a lot of opportunities to catch up and a lot of opportunities to fall behind. And you also had a very high chance that somebody was going to say something really mean about Papa Smurf that they would not be able to use in Smurf marketing.
Well, yeah, if you look at the 2 buses, look at the sign-up board, you had, Nippy and Magoo and Sam and Brenda and the Rebeccas were all on the first bus.
Mm-hmm.
And even E.B. and Blake, we'll get to, they ended up doing okay, but they, obviously we got, the team that, poor timing for the U-turn vote next week, but Jesse and Jonathan just, riding off into the sunset right now. But still, there was a lot of movement around. You had teams in the back that moved forward, and Grace and Joe had a good week. There's a lot of interesting things there. So that shows you that, yeah, it was a good leg. And just to mention about the editing, I normally sit there like I did this last week and go, I'm not falling for it. Amazing Race Canada. You can show people going, oh, he's right there. There's John. And I'm like, I'm not going to fall for it. This time I was like, oh, it's fake. Oh, maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't. Oh, it's fake. Now, they see the blue car. They think it's them. Maybe. And then by the end, I was like, damn, you fell for it. It wasn't close at all.
That's how they get you.
Oh. But yeah, so I guess we should talk about what they did. They took the buses.
Oh, did they do things, Dan? Is that what's happening?
Not just
did they do something on this show?
They went and had the big choice, which I like.
Yes.
Of express passes. They had a chance of getting 1 of 3 express passes, though there were only 2 locations, which confused me for a minute, but I get it. by chiseling ice, a la Will from season 2 of the US version. No
Mm-hmm.
flamethrowers this time or anything crazy like he was doing. They could do that, or they could just move on to the roadblock. And I like that the teams, sometimes you just see all the teams are like just blitz for it. Express pass, whoa. But teams were smart about it.
Mm-hmm. And I like the setup of this. This is a great setup because there is some game theory involved with it. And there's also a little bit of, I think sometimes when you have something like the go for the fast forward or go for the express pass, it's like one team can go do it and everybody else like, oh yeah, that team's doing it. They were in front of us. They're going to go for it. And here, everybody's got an equal shot at it. So all 10 teams theoretically could have been there chiseling at the ice at the exact same time. And you have odds that get better and better, like as you go along. So if a couple of teams come up empty handed, it's like your odds just went up and you should keep going. And I also, there was a very transparent fourth wall breaking moment when the second set of express passes was found. You could see, they did not show it, you could see the producer off screen, like you could see them reacting to the producer off screen telling them it was found and you got to get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty transparent.
Because everybody, you saw like Ika and Dimitri are like, it's, but nobody was there like, what's happening? No, I think they didn't want teams to feel like that totally like one team falls apart because they weren't paying attention. And I also like that there wasn't like, because a lot of times too, they'll say, okay, drive 20 minutes to get it or something. And it's not even as much what you're doing. It's more like teams have to decide. But if the team goes, like fast forward as an example, like you said, and one team can just get totally destroyed by this, and then it kills the momentum of the whole leg, and they're last, and it doesn't matter. And here was also random too. So the first bus was ahead, but it was only 15 minutes. And like we saw, teams come in, and the teams that got it were both on the second bus. So it didn't really matter. Granted, 2 of the teams on the first bus were just like, smartly, one of them being, I have to remember to say this, Nippy oh my gosh, Nippy and Magoo. And they were one of the 2, along with Jesse and Jonathan, the super smart team, who seemed to really are really dialed in. But I don't want to not give Nippy and Magoo credit because they did the same thing. But yeah, so it was just one of those things where I felt like we saw teams on both buses were like, it's not worth it. Other teams on the first bus said, let's just wait because we got a little time and then went. There was a lot of interesting stuff. And it ended up being that, one express pass went to Osas and Esosa, and then Louie and Marie got 2. They have to give 1 away by the end of Lake 4. The show loves that. They love when people have to give express passes away because it does add some drama, and it'll add drama next week possibly with all the different things happening then. But it's just they're doing interesting things. One, by giving different teams a chance, where obviously if it was super easy, Jesse and Jonathan show up, they get the 3, they get express passes, then they get to hand them out, and the overdog team is stronger. Now you've got teams like we saw with Osas and Esosa, nothing against the Short Kings, but that really needed it, and that's because they made it different with this task.
Yeah, and it ended up contributing greatly to the outcome. And also, you avoid the situation like they had when Team Giver winds up with all 3 express passes because they're a team that's out in front, and then the whole thing becomes who is going to get these other express passes. I think we've sidestepped a lot of that drama, and we've also given the express pass to a team that might actually have a reason to use it at some point, which right away one team did have a reason, and then you have Louie and Marie who, they're great. I like them a lot. I think we can agree they're not the team that immediately comes to mind. It's like, what team's going to win? Mother and son teams don't do well on the race, which is half the reason my 8-year-old is already hothousing himself to become an amazing race career tribute. So to have it be an equal chance of any team getting it, and then having a team get it that wouldn't be the team that would normally get it if you had one shot to get it, it's a lot more fun. And you get a team that may bring a different kind of drama when they're figuring out who to give it to, because you have those like hyper competitive front running teams that are like, ooh, who should we give it to? Can we leverage it? Can we create drama? Can we make people fight over it? I don't think Louie and Marie, I don't get the sense that they're the kind of people that are going to do that.
No, I agree. And, it's good for them to have it because if there becomes like some sort of they both have to bungee jump or skydive kind of thing, they may need that express pass after this
Mm-hmm.
week or something. But also too, like you said, I mean, Amazing Race Canada in general, the teams aren't that usually that nasty, but we had something the season that Brendan and Connor were on where one team thought they were going to get it, and then people are like that was with the season where everyone was acting weird towards one of the teams, and then they didn't get it, and there was weird drama, and none of that was very fun TV to
Mm-mm.
watch. Where here, I look at them and I'm like, they may give it to another team they just like. I have a feeling it's gonna. I mean, that usually is the case, but I mean, this is nothing against the strategic minds of Louis and Marie. I get the impression. I mean, you even saw the way that they had a really. I joked about it, but him helping her across the bridge at the end was a really nice moment, and I think they're really using this like we want to do well, but we also are really enjoying the spend time together, slow down our lives, spend time, and so they're going to look at it, and I could see. I mean, who knows? We haven't really seen much of who they've bonded with yet. But who knows? I mean, who even knows who the real? I mean, you can see who the front runners are, but I don't know for sure who the back teams are because I feel like we almost have a couple teams that are near the front, and then we have like 6 or 7 teams that like okay, they were ninth and now they're fourth, or they're fifth and now they're eighth. Or the 2 legs, you can't really see how everything's going to shake out yet.
Yeah, and I think it's also like it's good to have the social capital because you don't have another team quite like that in the race. You don't have another intergenerational team. You don't have a natural ally where, like sometimes the young couples sort of stick together or like all the best friend teams or all the sibling teams stick together. It's like you have one parent child team this season and it's not clear like who they would naturally gravitate toward.
I think they're going to give it to Nippy and Magoo. I mean, you look at the team that lost their bags already, that
Oh
everybody
yeah.
seems to like. I mean, come on. And plus, similar age to her at least. And, he's not that young. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how well they get along. I'm just saying that feels like a team
Mm.
anyone
Which
might give an express pass to, actually.
which begs the question, Dan. Is it a smart strategic move to lose all your crap in the first leg and continue racing? Because then everybody feels who's going to U-turn the team that lost all their crap? Who's
Nobody.
I feel bad. I'm going to give you my socks. I'm going to give you my express pass. Here's a tote bag. It's you're engendering goodwill. Everybody feels sorry for you. They don't think you're a contender. And there's not a lot of social strategy on the Amazing Race, but maybe this is social strategy. I'm not saying intentionally lose your bags, but
Yeah.
I think they're definitely getting something out of it.
Well, you think about teams like we talked last week about how Phil used to steal people's clothes and money. It sounds bad, like he was just stealing in the middle of the race.
That's really
But
painting a picture.
yeah, Phil just tackles somebody, and I like that shirt. But I remember with Meredith and Gretchen in season 7, which that had the whole thing where they were an older team. People, I mean, you had Rob and Amber and people on that season, but that team lasted a really long time. And I think one of the reasons is because teams were like, one, they seem like nice people. We're going to, like, when they lost all their stuff, people gave them a bunch of stuff. Nobody went, oh, now they're in trouble or something. They helped them. And not that these are not similar teams. Nippy and Magoo are much younger. They're not connected, but that kind of idea that helped them to get, all the way basically nearly to the final 3. I'm not saying that'll happen here, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing ever.
Yeah, and think about the U-turn vote coming up. I think we are pretty much resigned to Jesse and Jonathan are going to get some votes because they're out in front. They've won 2 legs. But are Nippy and Magoo going to vote for them? They can't because, they got the tote bag.
That's so interesting because I would have thought Brendan and Sam would be a team that people would vote for because, oh, well, you've already had your chance, or, oh, they're a strong team. And now I look at the board and I'm like, because normally there's going to be 2. So people will think about it. And I don't want to jump too far to next week, but there aren't I mean, I guess EB and Blake have been second and fourth, but there aren't
Mhm.
so many like obvious. The two obvious teams are probably Jesse Johnson, EB, and Blake, but usually it doesn't go that specifically the way you think.
Right. I mean, I might. It also depends on can you see who everybody else is voting for, because we've seen like with the verbal vote, there's just a pile on. You just kind of vote for somebody that somebody else already threw out so that you don't start any new beef. But if it was me, I might target the Big Brother team just because they've been on TV before. We know they're very strong. We know that they'll figure it out. Big Brother teams tend to not get eliminated in the early legs. They haven't been the strongest, but they're figuring it out, and they'll figure it out faster because they have played one of these games before. But I think there's no obvious target yet. I just think it was probably a very smart thing for Jesse and Jonathan to be helping out other teams so that when that does come up, they will. And this is also very results oriented too, because they didn't know that was happening. They never know that's going to happen. And I think it's just a sense of, there's going to be some social component. So it's not a bad thing if you're helping out another team, because that team probably won't directly target you.
And that's another good reason that they may really benefit from not having an express pass. Because if you get a team that has 2 first places and an express pass,
yeah, forget it.
I mean, forget it. They're going to get every vote or almost every vote. But I don't know if Louis and Marie, I feel like, won't get votes, even though they. Interesting. It's crazy just to think about. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I hope it's not verbal, because I don't want it to be like. I think
there was a board.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a board. The only one that I remember was, I think, 31 in the U.S. when they did that, and wait, I'm trying to think of, did they do it that way this past season? How did they do it this past season?
They did it verbally this past season.
Oh, of course they did.
Because
I think it'll be better.
I had an extended rant about that, and then I also.
I already forgot it was this past season. That's a good sign.
Yeah,
but yeah, go on.
Time is a flat circle, Dan. All right, let's go to, speaking of flat circles, let's go to the roadblock. Who knows the ropes? And John Montgomery really showing his Alberta roots here by calling it a lasso. Yeah, they're going to use the rope. They're going to rope some targets. Apparently something so easy a 5-year-old could do it, because the 5-year-old is who teaches them how to do it.
Is that kid 5? Because I wrote down, how old is that kid? Because that kid was awesome. Yes. I like how he was basically talking trash about Esosa to his partner, telling him how hilarious it was that he was so bad. But that kid was like the star of this part of the leg. But he was 5. Did they say that?
No, they didn't say that. I'm guessing, and I'm very bad at guessing the ages of children because my child is enormous. Like, my child fully looks 11 and he's 8. So I always skew up. That kid's probably 7.
He's 26.
Oh, yeah.
Or he's, I'm just kidding. The kid, though, regardless of his age, yeah. But you mentioned lassoing. I actually thought this might have been one of the John Montgomeryisms, like how he says buoy really strangely or whatever.
Yes.
But I think other people said lassoing also. So I think this is
maybe
a me
Canadian
thing, not knowing. I think it's like a Canadian thing, maybe. Or at least, I think it was Magoo said it correctly, or others did. So I don't know. I mean, there wasn't that much. This was another one of those, you've got to earn so many points, and then they always just show them get the last one. So I did notice that Brendan got 3 at once really quickly, which at that point I'm like, man, he's really good at this race.
Yeah.
But at that point he was. But I don't know. There wasn't that, but beyond the kid, and I don't know what else there was here except for, it was an okay task.
Yeah, it was like, I don't have an issue with it. We got a little bit of background on Jesse and Jonathan as they're coming up to the task. You hear that Jonathan drove through here when he went to law school, and that he is an immigration lawyer. So, call me. Might be able to use your services here as we descend further into a dystopian hellhole. We might like to go further north. I'm sure he's actually helping people that legitimately have need for asylum, which we really don't yet, even though we fantasize about it all the time. But so, yeah, this was a good task. It mixed up the order. There were people that had trouble with it, people that didn't. I don't want everybody to skate through, and I don't want everybody to be there for hours. So good enough. But I think we need to talk a little bit about Osas and Esosa's navigational skills, because I don't think enough mention was made of what an egregious error they made here, because there are several mentions made of Highway 1, the Trans-Canada. This is like the one road that goes through Canada. It is the highway. And there are other roads, like I can get where it would be confusing if you're going around on little back roads, or if you're trying to get off of the main drag, but literally that's the one navigational thing that is impossible to screw up, and yet they end up going the wrong way on Route 1 for quite some time.
Yeah, I love how the show put their little heads and had them moving the wrong
Yeah.
direction. And Golden's
And
up
then
at the top of the map, and they're going down the other way. But Esosa said he was, even when they were far away, 98% sure that he was going the right way. And
it's that
the
2%.
whole running joke of this whole episode is his partner. I'm starting to think, though, the two are very funny, but Esosa is kind of the goofier one. Where one point he just like eats snow, and Osa's like, "What are you doing? We're trying to let some done." He's like, "I just needed, I was thirsty," or something. There were just a few other moments. Osa's by the end of this was just like happy, but just like, "Oh my gosh, this is my life every day with this guy," But I think, I'm glad that was the thing. Like, we've seen so many times just where a team drives so far out of the way. This seemed to be at least like, they were. I don't know how long, because if you drive an hour the wrong way, then you're going to go the other way. And John did say it was like nearly 100 kilometers from where they were originally to Golden. So if they went the wrong, goodness, they figured it out, but they were clearly, this was not like, sometimes you see things where teams are in last and it's like, they're really 5 minutes behind, but the show makes it seem like they're 40 minutes or they're so far. This was not that case. They were really far behind. I even said, I was watching it, I'm like, they're never going to show up at the screen with another team. They're never going to. They're done. And then they were on the lift later and they saw Evie and Blake, and I was like, oh, they're actually going to be on the screen with someone else. Not thinking of where we were heading because they were so far out of it.
Yeah, they couldn't have been that far out, but they were far enough out that it made a big difference. That it doesn't bode well for them. I'm not, I love their energy, I love their humor, but really worried if you make that kind of error, like they gotta correct something big in a hurry. But they were able, it was smart use of the express pass, because that probably bought them an hour, as they mentioned. I think we do have to go to what low-key might have been the hardest thing ever on this leg. I think the objectively most difficult task would be to walk through a forest while announcing the Smurfs movie with a completely straight face. So MVP award to John Montgomery for talking about the Smurfs without totally losing his composure.
Well, I like how he's like, "This is the Smurfs."
Yeah. How do you do that? Like, that should have been the challenge, honestly. Like, get through this Smurfs voiceover without cracking up. I dare you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, John, I was going to mention this at the end, but John, he has a hard time being natural in like normal commercials. Like, there's a current Desjardins commercial. I don't know if you watched the commercials this week, where John just appears at a kid's kindergarten, and the dad's like, "John, does your kid go here?" And he's like, "Oh no, I just want to give you this assist." And he's so weird. And so John can't be convincing there. He just looks like the creepiest guy ever who just appeared to give you the assist at a kindergarten. The kid's like, "I'm just going to go to kindergarten now." So the fact that he can be so convincing here for Smurfs, I mean, maybe it took him 45 takes and they didn't have that time for the Desjardins commercial. I don't know.
It's possible. John's energy is just so interesting compared, especially coming off of a US season where you have Phil's like your dad, and then John is like your goofy little brother.
It doesn't matter what his age is either. He's just that way.
Because John and I are exactly the same age. So it's just such a vibe shift. And I love that he has made this his own. And I love that even when he's got a completely straight face, like putting the gravitas on the Smurfs voiceover, inwardly he's like falling on the floor.
Well, he's done enough of these, I guess now, enough of the promotional things. But Smurfs is definitely up there, especially when it's like teams have to do just what happens in the Smurfs movie. They have to go, because I guess that's part of the new movie, is that Papa Smurf is gone. He's gone,
You're right. Yeah.
And
they
so
have to go find Ron Swanson
captured.
Smurf they have to go find Nick Offerman Ron Swanson Smurf to help find Papa Smurf is the whole thing.
Yeah, I did see the trailer before something, and I was just like, I don't know. But my kids are a little older, so I'm safe. They're not interested. I'm good. 12 and 16, we're good. But regardless, I mean, they did the best. There were so many inserts. Oh, I also like how they finally found it, Nippy and Magoo, and she's like, wait. She brings the other Smurf over that they had gathered.
Yes.
One has him kiss Papa Smurf and then replaces him in the hut. So, and not like as like some sort of, it was like just being funny. And also, Magoo found some mushrooms and they were just mushrooms.
Yeah, that was fun. It's not the kind of mushroom we're looking for.
I know. She's like, don't even talk to me. I can get the sense that, she's kind of the one who, reins him in, where he's just like, oh, this is fun. No, we're doing this. So, but no, they're a fun team. And I don't know. I know we did cover that. Oh, one thing I liked about it, I wanted to mention this, is a lot of times when they would do something like this, the show would kind of phone it in and they would put all the Papa Smurfs in one place. Like or maybe there's 3 places and each one has 4. But because they did it where there was only one, it eliminated what's happened a lot in the US, again, is teams working together. Because if you've only got to find one spot and you're early in the lake, there's 10 teams left. You saw it, the Big Brother team's like, hey, we want to be friends with people. Let's find a strong team. And they, of course, come up with their ridiculous cacao and stuff things that they got to do, which was worth seeing. But like they found it first and they told him, and they were like, and Brendan right away is like, is there more than one? No. And that's good design to make this actually a real task, not just a promotional thing. And granted, it's kind of luck, but at least it's, there's something to it beyond, hey, let's 5 of us, let's 5 teams, let's go find this one thing and tell everybody. And then there's like one team left.
Yeah. My question for you, Dan, what denomination of Smurf checks is Papa Smurf on? Is he on the lower one that's more commonly circulated, or is he the high value Smurf?
I don't know. I would say he's the high value, but is Smurfette the highest value one? Especially, I mean, that was before Rihanna became Smurfette, which is the main crux of the marketing for this movie. But would it be as high? But I think Papa Smurf and Smurfette kind of stand above. One, because I don't know any of the other names of any of those Smurfs, so I'm not very. Those 2 I know, so those 2 have to be higher.
I can name more Smurfs than I wish I could. So, I want to point out, like, the little Smurf figurines. This is like a particular scale and substance of Smurf figurine that has been around at least since the 80s. Like, those little Smurfs are highly collectible. There's people that are obsessed with them, people that have like hundreds and thousands of them. And I think it's funny how remarkably consistent that is. Like, we don't have like a Fisher-Price Little People Smurf. This is the same plastic Smurf that you get everywhere, and it is at the same scale with the same like little house thing. And I liked that a lot. And it looked like some of these were new characters for the film. Like, we got Hefty Smurf, and we have Jesse calling him a fit diva. That was fantastic. Like, you could kind of visit all the different Smurfs while you're looking for Papa Smurf, and that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the little touches, when you're having something that's promotional like this, and we've said this in the past, the difference between a decent and bad promotional task is some of the little touches. Like, they're not just phoning it in and, oh my gosh, I can kick the back of the car and it opens, or, oh, wow, Phil's talking to me and it has a backup camera, which every car has basically now. Things like that are stupid. And I don't mean to pick on the US. The Amazing Race Canada has had some bad ones. I can't think of them because I think I've just forgotten them, but there have been some bad ones too. But this one's okay.
Yeah, let's go make a Subway sandwich.
Oh yeah, Australia had a whole thing with Subway going for a while, but yeah, they did do that here. Yeah, like what's your favorite Subway sandwich? Oh my gosh, so many memories that I've forgotten over the years of things like that.
It is honestly, I like this about Amazing Race Canada. I like that they are scrappy. I like that they have to bow to sponsors or they don't get to make the show. I think it's fun that they find all these ways around it. And also, this leg must have been stupid cheap to make. What with Smurfs paying for a big chunk of it, and then also every other task taking place at a resort where we zoom in on the sign several times and say the name several times. So you're like, huh, you know, if I'm going to go up to the Lake Louise area, I might go stay there. It it's not as transparent as the time that the city of Sudbury paid $65,000 for Canada to come and film there, but it's interesting to see how they're funding this, and it's fun to me also because not all of the products, some of the products are things we get down here. It's not all of them. Like we can't bank with Desjardins.
They would help me so much, you know.
It would.
But
It would
yeah,
be an assist.
I saw a headline that was like from last week that said Red Deer expecting tourist push after Amazing Race Canada episode. I'm like,
I
oh,
mean, God, you know, okay, I'm Google Mapsing this because my Alberta geography is not what it used to be. I want to know where that is relative to where I'm going to be all next month because I could be taking some detours.
well,
I'm gonna check
you
this
got to
out.
go ride the Canyon Coaster. I mean, last week that looked fun too. If you're gonna do that,
Oh,
but
yep, it's about halfway between Calgary and Edmonton. I see it up here. All right. Yeah, that's not really anywhere near where I'm planning on being. That's way up there. But that's fun. I've enjoyed getting to see like all of the different parts of Canada when I've not really spent. I spent large amounts of time in southern Alberta, but I've not actually been to a lot of these other places. So it's fun to me as well because as somebody that wishes very hard that she was Canadian.
yeah, and it's interesting to see, you know, because there's been some just spectacular. I mean, the pit stop that this week, oh my gosh, when they crossed that bridge was incredible. So they really have used the land well. But like you said, yeah, I noticed the resort thing. But yeah, I mean, how much did it cost them to like get those lassos to lasso the post? They gotta pay that kid. I
Yeah, they
don't
better
know
be
how that.
paying that kid scale. That's all I'm saying. I don't know what
Yeah,
child labor laws are up in Canada, but that kid better get at least a T-shirt.
and you know the guy who helped pack the one sled, they got to pay that guy, I guess, you know, with the assist. But there wasn't too much they had to do. Yeah, yeah, because I guess we've talked about the Smurfs pretty often. Should we move on to the detour? Are we up to that? Is there anything we kind of haven't covered yet so far?
No, I think we're ready to talk about tread it or sled it. Um, this one, I think there's an instance of good strategy and an instance of bad strategy here. That, interestingly enough, the bad strategy worked out fine, and the good strategy ended up being terrible. So I want to start first by talking about the assist. And we don't have to go into all the ways the assist is bad and should not be in the game. Let's just think the assist is what it is. It's going to happen. And it's what you do with it when you get it that counts. Am I crazy to think if you get the assist, you should go to tread it?
That's interesting. Yeah, because tread it, you probably should have, because I mean, tread it really, the hard part of tread it is putting the shoes together. As you
Right.
saw, I mean, I know Sam had a little hard time walking, but the ground they walked on, it was shorter distance. It was also flat. So they didn't have a big hill they had or a big mountain they had to climb. So the whole trick was that. But I mean, they were, of course, they got the assist in fourth. And so
Right.
and they did finish fourth. So it didn't, even though they chose the harder one, it worked out okay. But I agree with you. You should have done that. Was actually, they're the only team that probably should have, because it did
Right.
seem like packing the sled was easy. It was, but there were a few teams where I got a little nervous, like that were smaller teams, are they going to be able to push it? Especially you saw with Lacey and Celia, who did a great job actually with it.
That was
But
amazing.
yeah, if you just look on the surface, though, unless someone's really good at putting those shoes together, or just knows they'll never be able to push that up the hill, this was really unbalanced, I feel like, overall.
Yeah, it was. Because then Brendan and Sam, I want to be clear, they did the exact right thing in the circumstance. And I think this speaks to the fact that they've both done this before. If you are at the back of the pack and you show up to the detour and everybody's doing one of the detours, your only play is to do the other detour and hope it's better. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for them, but that was pretty much, it was not going to work out for them anyway. So it was perfect gameplay. It was just that they were not coming back from that.
They did arrive. I agree with you. I'm just saying they did arrive before the Short Kings a little bit.
But I don't think they knew that. I don't think they knew that.
That's the thing. They did mention they had the course to show clip where they said, we haven't seen them. But if you haven't seen a team, also a team that won an express pass, you could think, oh, I was looking for the Smurfs. They came in, they used the express pass, passed us all. A lot of teams use the express pass, win the leg. So that's a great point, because watching the show, it is very easy to watch this and go, oh my gosh, Brendan is so stupid. Sam was right. This is what you can do, even based on how the edit is, where they keep repeatedly showing her saying, let's switch. Now, granted, by the time they showed that, they were done. I mean, it was too late. But I could see she when they got the clues, she said, I don't know anything about shoes. Let's just do this. We're strong. Let's do this. So she did say that. And they probably would have survived only because they didn't realize that they had at least, I don't know how much, but it seemed like they were up 10, 15, 20 minutes ahead, or maybe not even that much, maybe 5 minutes, whatever. They probably would have at least been as fast as the Short Kings. So they probably survived. But like you said, it's very easy watching at home to not understand. The edit wanted it to seem like it was a mistake, and it ended up being in hindsight, but it might not have been at the time based on the info they had.
Yeah, I mean, if they thought they were in last place, they did the exact right thing that you should do if you think you're in last place. But it happened that they weren't in last place, and it just shook out differently for them. I think we have covered a lot of things that we've talked about. Like, people had a lot of occupational help with this stuff. Brendan did not have as much occupational help as he thought he did. You had Joe, who's a diamond driller, who has packed a lot of sleds before. I think I thought it was interesting. Louis is coming down on the chairlift. The Short Kings are coming up, and he yells at him, "Do the sleds."
I don't know. Teams are helping each other out. Nice teams that like each other.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's Canada. Everybody is nice in Canada. They help each other out. One thing I was curious about that I don't know if there is anybody out there who wasn't actually physically present who could answer this, but several of the teams, because there's this like icy snow on the ground, several of the teams had these things. They're down here in the States, they're called yak tracks. They're probably still called that somewhere else, but they are these little rubber things that go on your shoes that have spikes on the bottom. They're almost like snow tires for your feet. And I saw that several of the teams had these and several of the teams did not. And I wondered if I'm going on Amazing Race Canada, I feel like that's something I'm going to pack. If I'm going on regular Amazing Race, I probably won't devote backpack room to it. But I wonder if that's something like, were those furnished by the resort or the race, or was it just down to whoever decided that they wanted to bring yak tracks with them?
Well, if you would think if they were furnished by the race, everybody would use them, unless they said, hey, we've got this if you want. And some teams were just like, whatever, we're going. It could have been something like that too, like they were there as an option. Some teams didn't think about it. I'm inclined to think it was probably teams bringing it, but I don't know. I mean, it's also, if the show thought there was a chance they could not do it without them, I think they would have at least offered or provided it, but I don't know. It was interesting too, because there were points where it looked like some teams, like I said, were stuck, but then they all get to that point where they get to the top and then they have to go down. And everybody's like, whoa, we're not ready for this, because it's like a hill and then you go down. But I don't know. I wondered too. Like even you saw with Ika and Dimitri, where she couldn't really do much, and he just like, I don't know, that guy's strong as anything. Just like pushed it up over the hill. But I think it would have helped a lot to have it. I just wonder if it was, how much. I didn't look and see which teams got it and how well they did based on it.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it had a big effect either way. Like I kind of clocked. I don't think. I know that Ika had them. Lacey and Celia had them. I don't think Louie and Marie had them, and it didn't seem like it had much of a bearing on like anybody passing anybody or anybody having a lot of trouble. So it's anybody's guess, and it's not a terribly important thing. It's just one of those stupid small things I noticed. Maybe it's something for the Act Tracks brass to think about for next time. Maybe they should be like sponsoring it and getting their name on it and making everybody wear them. I don't want to tell you how to run your race here, but anyway, that brings us, I think, to the suspension bridge, which is, I think, one of the more beautiful pit stops I've seen literally anywhere. Jesse and Jonathan win a trip for two to Tokyo and $10,000 from Expedia and $5,000 from Boost. And yeah, I guess Boost was like, we want to be a part of this, but we understand it's inhumane to make people chug this stuff first thing in the morning. So how about we just give you some money instead? And I think people will like us better. And it is the case, but $15,000 on leg 2.
They got 10 last week too. They're up to 25 already.
They're up to 10% of the main prize pot.
I had this thought. I was like, what if a team, like, let's say they're going to give them 10,000 or more every leg. What if a team just like won 8, 9 legs and they're like, okay, you didn't win the race, but you ended up with 180,000 and 8 trips. They're like, oh, we did okay. We're fine. We can go around the world with our 8 trips that we won.
I like that they're also giving trips and money, because I know from talking to many amazing race teams that it is a struggle. You have to take those trips within a year after you win them. And so I know like Ricky and Cesar are taking a lot of trips right now, but they're worried they're not going to be able to use them all up by the time that their trip allotment runs out. So it's a little tough. But I could certainly see a situation where you end up winning enough legs, but you don't win the race. You've still got almost as much money as the people that do win it.
Like, actually, with the value of our trips, we have more than we didn't get the trucks, but they got taxes. I mean, come on, they
don't have taxes, Dan. It's Canada. It's civilization.
No. That's so much better because those trucks are like $60,000 trucks each one or something. That's a big difference. I mean, the taxes are that'd be a lot. Okay, can I mention something about John though? I want to mention this because
of course.
Brennan and Sam get up there, and I've talked about this in the past. I've said John has a certain cadence. When he asks them a question, he says, "What went wrong?" or "What happened out there?" It's always non-elimination. So he comes up. They say, "You're the last team to arrive." He says, "What went wrong?" They answer, and I'm like, oh man, this is a non-elimination. And then he eliminates them, Jess. He does the opposite. I think they've been listening to us. I think the producers listen, because he did between this and some of the other things they've done in this episode. I mean, it may not be us. Someone else may be saying the same thing.
I mean, maybe we're just objectively correct, and they've come around to it because it is the objectively correct thing to do.
To mix it up. Yeah, don't do the same thing every time. But I watched it when he said what went wrong. I already heard in my head, well, I'm sorry to tell you that you're going to have to keep racing and try to catch up or something.
He faked me out as well.
I mean, good job, guys. I'm not upset about it. I think it's great because, I mean, sometimes we don't see the full thing, but this one shot he's speaking. But I mean, I think maybe Brendan and Sam were like, hey, come on, John. That wasn't cool. But no, they went out well. They seemed to be really frustrated. But at the end, they, being TV vets at this point, they know how to kind of finish the race. But I wanted to ask you too, do you think they made the right choice? Like, think about sometimes if you have too much info, like if you live in a city, the best route, and sometimes you outsmart yourself. Do you think they outsmarted them? Like Brendan outsmarted himself by picking the shoes? Maybe if it was a first-time racer, he would have just done the sleds and not even thought about it? Is it because he was a returning racer that he outsmarted himself?
I think it's a little results oriented to think about it that way, Dan, but I think you're right. I think if he was just stumbling on this blind, like if this was his first season, I do think he ends up probably leaning toward the sled.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to say. I think it's possible, like there's a couple of teams in there I think that are really, really strategy savvy this season. And I think any team that is thinking about it on that 4D chess level, I think they all go for the shoes at that point, and they would all be wrong. But they're only wrong because it is that specific instance. Objectively, it is the correct thing to do.
Sure. No, that makes sense. Should we do questions? I just asked you a question. I feel like I led us right in already.
All right, yeah, let's go to our questions. Let me see. I think we should go to Eric from Blue Sky. Asks, was that one of the best uses of an express pass we've ever seen? They knew they're in last. They wasted no time mulling over the decision or attempting the task, and it paid off.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. There have been so many express passes used, and the ones that stand out are always when teams are in this position and don't use it, or they kind of, should we use it? Should we not? Should we use it? Or, I mean, the most common use is always still teams, we want to get first. And I'm like, oh my God. But this, I was watching it thinking they need to use it right away. And and it was smart too. It worked out because, they didn't wait. See, what some teams might do is they go find Papa Smurf, then they get to the detour, and then they use it. And I think if they had done that, if they had found Papa Smurf really quickly, sure. But I think the odds are pretty good they would have been eliminated. I think because it was the needle in the haystack, they didn't know this, but it worked out well where they used it on the exact right task for the leg that they needed to use it on too.
Yeah, it was, I think, objectively the best use of the express pass. I don't think you get much more appropriate than that.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I'm just laughing because Eric also asked about how could anyone know what Papa Smurf
Yeah,
I know we already covered.
You're telling on yourself, Eric. We know you're younger than we are.
Here's an interesting one. John McCullough. This is kind of what we're getting at. And he said, I wonder why returning teams don't do better. And this could go beyond Amazing Race Canada too. I'm curious for your thoughts here. Overconfidence, just random, beyond Jet and Dave, Sam and Brendan. There's a bunch of U.S. teams. Some have done well, like Colin and Christie, and we've seen others do pretty well. Like, your Tyler and Corey, who have been very good both times. But then there's like Art and JJ, who came back and looked like, did they even know they were on the show before a day before or whatever? So what do you think? That was my addition there. That wasn't in the question. He just said Art and JJ. But just what do you think? What is it about some of these returning teams that makes them just flare out so quick?
Well, I was going to ask you, Dan, if you think there's a curse on Amazing Race Canada returning players, because we've now had what were 4 very strong racers all come back for a second time and get eliminated almost right out of the gate. Maybe it's just a curse. But I would push back gently because we don't have a very good sample size here. We don't have a huge sample size of teams that are up against non-returning teams. And I think we can only look at these 2 Amazing Race Canada instances, and we can look at the reality superstar season, which had about a third Amazing Race veterans and a third Big Brother, a third Survivor. But I want to point out that all the top 3 teams that season were Amazing Race veterans. And I think that it could go either way. You could get overconfident. You could feel like I've done this before. I know what to do. And because the variance of the tasks you get and the environments you're going to be in is so great that you really aren't that prepared. But I also think in cases of an Art and JJ situation, they didn't care. I think if you come back and you care, it's a different situation from if you just come back for giggles.
Which might be more kind of how Jet and Dave were. I'm not saying they didn't care at all, but
Jet and Dave were totally, they were in it for the lulz.
Yeah, on the show, they thought we can come by, we're going to have fun, we can just kind of sleepwalk and we'll make it far. They didn't think that. But yeah, I think Art and JJ though are the better comparison to that, but they're also the exception. But sometimes the Amazing Race is just, I mean, we don't have enough in Canada, like you said. We would need almost at least, I mean, I don't really like the half all stars, half not or something. But if the other people were interesting, maybe if they wanted to do some sort of reality superstars thing where they already do so much Big Brother, maybe they could find a way to make that interesting. But I think about like Natalie and Nadia, who were so good in their first season in the US and then came back and just looked lost. But it was one leg. Any team can have a leg and just be like, look like they don't know what's going on because it's just what happens and everything. And then you survive, like we saw with Grace and Joe this week, who all of a sudden looked like they were good racers. Not that they were bad last week. Sometimes just surviving helps, and you need some luck positively or negatively. And Brendan and Sam could have survived this if they just found a different Papa Smurf. That really, being there so long, probably was as important as what happened at the end.
Yeah, it can be as simple as one task. And like Natalie and Nadia, I have it on good authority that they were prepared and they were in it seriously. And I think they just sort of imploded on, again, one task. So it's all that you have to be lucky. And that's a rule for everybody, whether it's your first time or your third time or you're from a different show. You have to be willing to be a little bit lucky on The Amazing Race. And if it doesn't shake out your way, you could be the best racer in the world, is still going to screw you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What else would you like to add? Should we talk about?
What else would I like to ask? Let's see. I like, we already talked about, I like how we have a question from Dan Heaton, the podcaster, about John Montgomery showing up to some random kid's kindergarten. That's very cute.
I wanted to make sure we addressed that just because I saw that commercial like 6 times today. So, just kept showing up.
Yep. Let me see. Let's talk about Logan on Blue Sky said, I'm just Amazing Race casual, but how far behind do you really think my winner picks, Brendan and Sam, were from the Short Kings?
It's so hard to know. And like we said, the editing did kind of fool us. But I'm always of the thought that if we don't see the teams like running together, I mean, they do hold teams up if like a team's talking to John or whatever at the end. But I'm thinking it was close. But Jess, I don't know. I think it was probably still in the 15, 20-minute range. I have no idea. Someone might, if I'm wrong, please tell us, racers, that they were 2 minutes behind or whatever. I'm just always inclined to think here it was close, but I don't think it was, like the show made it seem like they were 3 minutes away. I'm guessing it was more 10, 15, 20 minutes. But what do you think?
I think it depends on whether that blue car really was them. Mm-hmm. That's a great thing to say to throw us off, because really it could just not be them. It could have been wildly off base, and it could have been that Brendan and Sam were 30 minutes behind and you never saw them in the same frame. You just had it on Brendan and Sam's word that other car was them, and we don't know that. And even if it was, like, they could have pulled ahead, I don't think it was that close ultimately, but I think the editing did a better job than it usually does of making me feel like it was. And especially they lucked out by having a team that was terrible at navigation, and you just knew that they could get lost again and they could screw it up.
Yeah. That was the whole thing, is we just saw them mess it up. But yeah, there's a good chance, like literally 10 seconds after she said, it's them, it's the blue car, a minute later they went, oh no, that wasn't them. But we don't see that. Like, they saw the turn, they're like, oh no, that's not them at all. And because then when they pulled up, she said, oh, it's their blue car, they're already here. But it wasn't like, the way they said it was not like, oh, they probably just pulled in, let's go. It was more like, they're already here. Like, they realized that wasn't the car. And then they realized
that car has been parked for 20 minutes. Yeah,
they didn't know it all. So I'm curious on this. Alex Bricker, this had multiple questions, but I'm curious. I have no idea what's in the trip around the world. I'm not asking you to tell me what's in it, just not that you've won the trip around the world for the Amazing Race, but what do you think it's like? Like, what do we think it is?
I would guess there's a certain type of ticket that you buy if you want to go around the world. There's an open-ended ticket that you can buy where you pay a certain amount of money and then you choose a minimum number of cities and you just got to be in that city on that day. I would guess it's something like that. And then you just get like Expedia bucks to fund yourself. Or it could just be the plane ticket. I have no idea. But I believe it'd be something like an open-ended plane ticket where you just have to pick your specific number of cities and then just explore out from those cities.
That makes sense. Yeah, that logically makes sense. It's not one of those things where they're like, here's your private jet. Now we're gonna fly you
Yeah.
all over the country for 30
Yeah,
days.
here's your like Jules Verne hot air balloon. You got to
Yeah,
do the Nellie Bly thing. You got to go on a steamship.
when I used to write for a travel company and they had this trip. It was around the world, and certain points was by supersonic Concorde, to tell you how long ago that was. And it was like at the time people paid like $80,000. But this is in 1998. So who knows what they paid now, but they'd have like 20 people on it. But that's what I picture, but I don't think that's what this is. I'm sure it's amazing. Not to, no pun intended. But yeah, I doubt it. It's probably a little more open-ended, like you said, because people's schedules and everything else, you got to have some flexibility there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's just what I fantasize about. So, if I was going to do a trip around the world, that's what I would do personally. Okay, I think, Dan, unless there are any other burning questions that we have not yet addressed, I think we have covered just about everything we're going to cover this leg. Is there anything else going on in your life that you want to tell the nice people about?
No, it's really hot in the world right now
It
in St.
is.
Louis. It's very warm. But beyond that, I'm just enjoying the show. I'm enjoying doing this podcast. And it's just been fun to kind of get back in the swing of things, talking about the Amazing Race Canada. And, I have a feeling, judging by this week, it might be kind of an unpredictable season, maybe. Who knows? U-turn vote next week. There's a face-off next week, too. Just face-off and a U-turn vote. Two
Face
things
off
in 1
and a
week.
U-turn. Wow.
Oh,
But the world is full of things, Dan.
so many things. But no, it's all good. I'm just excited doing the show and looking forward to the next few weeks.
Yeah, same here. We love hearing from you guys. Thank you for the multitude of great questions and comments we got over in our Facebook group and on our Blue Sky. So if you want to keep those coming, we will put out the call for questions every week. You can join our Facebook group by going to robhasawebsite.com/tar group. Make sure you answer the questions when you apply to be in the Facebook group, or I'm going to reject you. So if you're wondering like, oh, why'd she reject me? Doesn't she like me? I like you fine, except that you didn't answer the questions. And I told you, I'm telling you now, I'm using like my stern mom voice. Go answer the questions and then I will let you in the group. So you can even like say something snarky in the questions about why are you such a jerk about the questions? That's fine. Don't care. You can also follow us if you if you don't want to be on Facebook, which I both respect and envy, and you just want to hit us up on little drive-by comments, you can go over to Blue Sky where we are at Jess Liese and at the Dan Heaton, and you can look up the hashtag Amazing Race Canada. There's always some comments there. And we love hearing from you no matter how you do it. And we're happy that you're tuning in and joining us on this journey across the far superior North American nation. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to us. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes who makes this possible, and for Rob for letting us continue to do this. And we will see you all next week.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.